and we're going to start doing our summer vacation planning, and all of a sudden we're back in the same part again. There's always a reason to not meet with someone to do the type of planning that we should be doing all along. And at the same time, all we got to say is, look, let's start for 20 minutes. Let's figure out if we even like each other for 20 minutes. And if we like each other, we can either keep the conversation going or let's reschedule another time for later. And if we don't like each other, hey, it was only 20 minutes, no big deal. But something's got to give, because and I use this as an example, because someone will say, I'm just too busy. Look, I get it. I've got a very busy personal life myself, but if I may, the people I meet in their 70s wish they met me in their 50s, and the people I meet in their 60s wish they met me in their 40s. And all we got to do is carve out a little bit of time. Let's make sure that it actually makes sense for us to get together, that I can make a difference. And if I can make a difference, great. Let's see what we can do. And if I can't, no problem. We'll part ways. But it's so important that at least to carve out a little bit of time. And carve is a great word to use this time of year, because we just got through Halloween, so there was carving pumpkins. We just got done with Thanksgiving. We just carved a turkey. We didn't do turkey, so we did spare ribs. So we're non-traditional around here.
I guess for Christmas you could carve a ham.
Yeah, well, at least slice a ham. Either one, that works. And
I don't know. I was trying to think of something you could carve for Christmas.
We can whittle away on the nutcrackers and other things.
That's not carving.
Ornaments.
Everything's non-traditional in California, Mike. You know how that works.
Well, yeah, fair enough.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Oh, that works. But with all of that, one of the things that sometimes comes up, it's rare, but sometimes comes up, where with a couple, they might both want separate financial plans. And it's interesting to think that way. And the only thing I would wonder is, are they filing their taxes as married filing separately or not? Because sometimes doing separate financial plans is really kind of almost a commentary about the relationship. Why aren't we planning together as a married couple, as a unit? And it concerns me when those things happen. I must have been an article I read or something that must have brought that up. I mean, better have a financial plan than none, but far better for everybody to be on the same page. You're all working towards the same goals, the same objectives, rather than I've got my advisor and my spouse has their advisor. I don't see there being much of an advantage there, unless they're different specialties. That's different. So you might have an insurance agent, and your spouse has as a stockbroker. Okay, fine. You could do that kind of thing. But being on separate pages, I don't think rarely works out well. Alonzo, thank you.
I don't think so. I don't think so either. And the one thing, it seems like, I won't say it's common, but a lot of times you find that the female, from a working stance, she may even have a better benefit plan as far as where she's putting money than the husband does, just because of the work environment. I mean, if it's one's a blue collar worker, one's the white collar worker, and if that tends to be the female, a lot of times she has a much better plan from a employer plan perspective than sometimes the male does. So it's just like you say, you got to get on the same page.
Yeah, for example, this was like 25 years ago. My folks were having a harder time, and so my mom got a job at the Tustin School District. She was never a teacher or anything, but she got a position there. I think it's an instructional aide of some kind, and she got really great health insurance. And so she made sure at the time, my dad was running the Orange County Courthouse cafeteria. First job I was fired from at the age of 13, by the way. Thanks, Dad. But great learning experience. But they were able to change over their health insurance over to my mom's plan because it was far, far better. So sometimes just coordinating those things to help make more informed decisions and maximizing and synergizing our dollars wherever possible is a much better way to go. It just, like everything, and we joked about this last week or the week before, we said we should call this the It Depends podcast, because everything depends. There's no one size fits all. It all depends. We just got to figure out what's happening there. And so Alonzo says, yeah, it depends on financial status. I know some celebrities who file married filing separately. Okay, awesome. And of course, he chimes in saying he uses his wife's health care. It's way better than I could offer myself. Absolutely. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. taking advantage of pooling benefits wherever possible to get the most out of our current situation, whatever that may be. And I think the other part too I was thinking of was blended family considerations. And because sometimes with blended families, especially second marriages, well, that's primarily what we're talking second, third marriage, fourth marriages. Some people just, I don't know. I think after the second marriage, if I have a second marriage and it ends prematurely, I'm not sure I could go through that again. But making sure that the assets that you do have are properly marked to where you want them to go, because you don't want to show favoritism necessarily to your previous family versus your current spouse, or more favoritism to your current spouse than the children from your last marriage. You don't want that. I remember when I first got started with a mutual insurance company, and I heard about this story about a guy who only sold to car dealerships. And this guy said, "You're going to write me a check for $10,000. And here's the reason why. The reason why is that after you pass away, 10 years later, you want your family to still come together every Thanksgiving around the same dinner table." And that basically he's going to make sure that that happens, because he's going to make sure that everybody's taken care of on an equalized basis. That doesn't mean everybody's equal, but they're all going to be treated properly with, the business interests, other assets, things like that.
And I think
So
this
that's
goes back to what we talked about, was it either last week or the week before, with doing kind of your annual review stuff to make sure that you have the coverage where you want it, covering the proper people that you want it, where, maybe you were divorced and your ex-wife is still the beneficiary on your old life insurance plan, right? So
Mhm.
that kind of all ties back to that, where even if no changes are made, it's still good to sit down and at least look at these things maybe once a year and make sure that everything is still set up how you want it, because a lot can change in a year. So
Yeah. Or just repaper it. And that's a kind of a technical term. It just means fill out the paperwork again, even if it's confirming the same things that you believe that's already on file. Just repaper it, submit it in, just to make sure. And on that line, because I plan to bring that back up, because there was that video I mentioned before. I found it. I want to play it. This is Dad's IRA mistake of what happened when he listed his last will and testament to be the beneficiary. So take a look at this.
My father was the one person that I knew.
Let me start
My
that over
father
again.
wanted his IRA to go to his children. And what happened is, because he didn't fill out the beneficiary form correctly, it went to his wife of 2 months. Approximately 1 year after my father passed away, we learned that the beneficiary form was apparently not filled out correctly and that we would not be receiving the money from the IRA. What he did wrong was not list our names individually on the beneficiary form. When you write, "as per my last will and testament," is apparently not a proper designation as to where the funds will go. I had no idea that a will could be trumped by an IRA beneficiary form. I was shocked over that fact. My father never intended this. He would be so angry. He would be so mad that no one informed him that he filled out the form incorrectly. It was worth over $400,000. I think as of today, it's over $600,000. It's really tough. I'm a single mom. I'm raising 2 boys, ages 9 and 19, all on my own. And it's hard to get by. It's a struggle. It's very stressful. It was really hard losing my dad and then having to go through this. So it was real difficult when she decided to exclude us from her life and to also not follow my dad's wishes and to take the IRA money when she knew that that's not where it was supposed to go. It still takes a toll on me after all these years. And sorry. We were in court over this IRA for, my goodness, almost 3 years, I believe. I did not end up getting the IRA. Then I went into debt to fight for the IRA. To this day, I have not seen one penny from anything in my father's estate, including the IRA. My father was the one person that I knew who I was sure had all of his financial matters in order when he died. Even if you think that everything is all tied up, check on it regularly. Make sure your beneficiary forms are up to date, that they're filled out correctly. Because if they're not, the company will not always let you know that they're filled out incorrectly, and you'll find out too late.
So obviously a sad story, but the current wife of 2 months had no legal requirement to have to share that IRA in any way. I'm wouldn't necessarily say that she was a gold digger. I'm just saying that there's no requirement. The law recognizes the next of kin, which goes to spouse first, and that was the person that was the current spouse. So if you don't list who you want, everything could go to the current spouse, and you might completely unintentionally disinherit your children of a previous marriage. And obviously there's the ripple effects that come from that. So that really sucks when the planning was meant to be right and it isn't. And there's no requirement. I mean, like she said, she went to court, she tried to fight for it. No, that's in a way what by trying to fight for you, what you're saying is that the probate court did not follow proper procedure. And no, they did follow proper procedure. You really should be suing the court for messing that up if they really did it incorrectly. But no, they followed it exactly right. So yeah, getting that stuff reaffirmed the way you want it to be, always a good idea.
Yeah,
But anyway,
whether
yeah,
it's life insurance, IRAs, whatever it is, they're always gonna annuities. They're always gonna pay the money to whoever the designated beneficiary is at the time of death.
assuming that they're 18 and over. So
Correct.
let's go through another part where this was a recent situation a couple years ago. Someone actually passed away. He was in his mid 40s. And when he did his applications for life insurance, and it was about $1 million worth, I think it was some term and some whole life, listed his 6-year-old son as the primary beneficiary. Well, that doesn't work.
Yeah.
So what happened? He died in a car accident. And because of that, we had to get papers of conservatorship. Who's taking care of this child? Who's the one that is going to be essentially the representative payee? I don't think that's even the correct term, but essentially, who's going to be in custodial responsibility for these funds for this minor who it's meant for? And there's a whole big old thing on it. And so I think the funds have been paid out to the ex-girlfriend. They never got married, but the ex-girlfriend aerobics instructor, who was probably 10 years younger than he was. So we can guess what may or may not happen with those funds. But what's interesting from what I've heard is that if the 6-year-old son grows up, becomes 18 and over, and figures out that those funds were mismanaged on his behalf, they can sue the agent
Mm-hmm.
for having put for improper designation that put
Yeah.
his inheritance at risk. So
And that's
it's important
why
to pick.
whenever I sit down with people and they say, "Oh, I want to put my granddaughter, I want to put my niece or my nephew or my daughter or son or whoever it is," I always ask, "How old are they?"
Mhm.
Because if they're under 18, I have to tell them that this is gonna, be a problem if it's not set up properly and handled properly after they pass away. And so I always, anytime, especially if I'm, doing a final expense or a life insurance policy or anything like that, there's any doubt in my mind that they could be under 18, I always ask, how old are they? And yeah, because that's a great example, and it's a lot of people just don't understand that.
And one of the best ways to circumvent that is to make sure you get what you want to have done is make sure there's a living trust set up.
Yeah,
That's the easiest way to go. Yeah, the trust will take, $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 to set up whatever it is in your state. And whether you're going through legal Zoom, I don't care how you get it set up, get one set up. You can amend it later. but you get one set up, you list the trust as the beneficiary or contingent beneficiary. So let's suppose you have someone you definitely want to get the funds first. If you die and they're still around, you want them to get it. And then if you want minor age children, leave it to a trust, have the trust distribute the funds and take care of the funds for those minor age children. That's the way to do it. This is life insurance advice that happens to include a little bit of legal advice. It basically says get a trust if that's what you want to do. But yeah, you just got to make sure that we're doing it right. And here's the thing: if the client completed the form and they wrote it, then they're responsible. If the agent wrote it down, then the agent's responsible. And I think that the line is so fine there that you never know what it's really going to be. That's one thing that's good about e-apps, though, is because the e-apps can track who filled in what. So who knows? It's a dangerous game regarding inheritances and stuff like that. Anyway, we're kind of slightly off topic regarding behavioral finance and spouses and things like that. But
But
it's all
yeah, it's all tied together, and it's an important thing to talk about. That I really feel like it's not talked about maybe enough and gets overlooked oftentimes. People just don't really think about it.
well, that's one thing about life insurance agents, us in particular, not us, like the three of us, but we're championing the cause that life insurance is a wonderful way to go. And yet we're often so much on the defensive trying to defend why. What is it about life that sometimes we negate or even forget about the other areas of finance and behavioral finance and how things work within spouses and relationship that we're so focused on defending that we're not always looking at the bigger pictures like, this isn't the right time for you guys. You guys are having real marital splits, and yet I'm trying to defend why life insurance is great. You shouldn't have this right now. You need to be focusing on this other stuff. Come back to me in 3 months. Let's see if that makes sense.
There's always a time to buy life insurance, man. I don't know about all that. But.
Yeah, well, it depends. A really roaring. By the way, okay, let's get this out there real quick. The spouse that murders their spouse does not get to collect on the benefits. Let's put that out there first. It's an important disclosure. You cannot commit a felony that causes the death of the insured and expect to collect the benefit. It's not going to happen. So, what was it? The Peterson case? I don't know. It's almost 20 years ago now. A lot. Oh, I can't remember, but it was only $250,000 of term on Lexi Peterson, and whatever his name was, apparently, according to court, killed her and her unborn child in order to collect the proceeds. I mean, come on, only for $250,000. Jeez, and I don't know if it ever got paid out, and if it did, still $250,000. Really, that's it? You did all that just for that? I would have had it as zero at least, but come on. Anyway, that's a whole nother topic.
So back to the topic at hand.
So making decisions, making sure everybody's on the same page as a married couple, I think it's so important for that kind of harmony. But hey, what do I know? I'm just a divorce guy. But to make sure you're both on the same page and that you're making the best coordinated decisions possible together. And us as advisors, making sure that we're communicating to both parties that are making the decision, not just one who appears to make all the decisions. Because here's what's funny: they say, "No, I make all the decisions," and at the end of your meeting, what they're going to say is, "Well, I need to run this by my wife." Well, I'm sorry, you're trying to do my job. My job's to help you run it by your wife. Let me do that part, not you. I can't trust anybody else to explain things the way I did, because if I were to leave a meeting like that and say, I just met with this guy and he thinks life insurance is a good idea. What do you mean by that? I mean, yeah, we need more, but what are you talking about? That would be my first reaction to that. And then you expect them to explain everything that they learned in one meeting. I'm like,
And I feel like most people, most agents, most advisors, anybody that's held any kind of professional license for more than 5 minutes knows better than to run a one-legged appointment, right? So
yeah,
generally speaking, you want both decision makers there. You want the husband and the wife in the same room, and you want to present both of them at the same time. This prevents a lot of things, not only the miscommunication between spouses, but also, oh, I can't decide right now. I have to go talk to my wife about it because she wasn't there, and all the stuff. It just makes, I wouldn't say, unless I knew the person explicitly well, like they were my best friend and they were like, you know what, I can meet with you, it's okay. Even then, I probably want the spouse there just so she can at least hear it. So, uh, anybody that, like I said, that's had a professional license for more than 5 minutes could hopefully
Yeah,
know that.
or at least by the end of that meeting, it's like, look, your only obligation at this point, you're not going to buy right now. I want to make sure that I've earned the right to make sure I meet with both of you next time, and then we're going to meet you. But I don't want you to explain anything as to what we talked about. That's
Good
my
luck with
job.
that.
Yeah, well, but still, that's the way it ought to be. I mean, you don't have to explain. Look, David's a nice guy. He's got some ideas. I heard him out. It sounds all right. I want your opinion, but don't ask me to explain them all. That's all
Well,
you
what
got
did
to
he
do.
say?
What did he say? He said that we're doing pretty good, but he has some ideas. That's all you got to
What
do.
are what are what are the ideas? That's the conversation. That's how that's going to go, and eventually you're going to have to,
And then all you got to
know,
say is it's not crypto. I mean, you can tell them what it's not. All I'm
what?
thinking of is,
Well, I really like crypto.
oh, Alonzo put this in. This is good. If it's a one-legged, you can only say the guy told me if something happens to me, you'll get X 100,000 or $1 million. That's good. I like that. No,
Oh
but
boy.
really, it's just to show that we're looking out for our spouses. We want to make sure that they're all right. But by the way, I dare any man to find a spouse that would be upset with them for buying more life insurance. I'd like to see where that actually happened.
Your
If that
wife would
happens,
be more. If your wife would be angry at you for buying more life insurance so she can be richer, put it in the
we're
comments in the
better off.
chat.
Yeah, but if she could be better off, not rich, because life insurance doesn't make anybody rich, but it will prevent you from ever being poor as long
Well,
as you
that's.
pass away with it in force. So, no, you're not going to be rich.
I'd like
And
to
you
see it in
might,
the comments.
yeah, I like to see that too. If you've got someone to be more upset for buying life insurance than not, I mean, really. So, really, I think we call out men for saying, "Oh, I got to talk to the wife before I buy life insurance." Really? I mean, why don't we help you gift wrap this thing, put it in a nice bow, and you can put it under the tree for Christmas. I mean, what more do you need here? I mean, anyway, those are all my thoughts. Anything else to wrap up here with, guys? I can't think of anything right now.
I mean, Kurt, you've been gone for a while here. Last couple shows. What do you think?
I don't know. I think that's you can get really deep into the weeds just having a conversation about what we've been talking about today. So it's just one of those things where especially when you're talking about finances, you just need to be on the same page. Everyone needs to be at the table with the same objectives and beliefs, and you're all trying to get to from point A to point B, and you need to do that in the most efficient way. And it's going to cause some things to be different and a change, which is no one likes. It's gonna cause that to naturally occur when you're talking about finances, and it's just you got to figure out, it's all about the pain to change, which we know exist.
Yeah.
There we go.
So
And
yeah, no, I'll chime in here real quick. But what you didn't understand until I told you to use my numbers. Alonzo. All right. So reiterating what Kurt said, I mean, nobody likes surprises, right? I mean, especially if you're married, don't make any decisions without talking to your spouse or significant other or whatever it is. Nobody likes to come home and hear that you just bought a car and the car payment's $1,000 a month, and uh, you just went out and bought a car on a whim. Nobody likes that kind of stuff or to be surprised like that. So any kind of obviously big purchases or anything that you're going to do financially, at least in my opinion, should be made together as a couple. I think that takes care of a lot of problems in marriages too, where
yeah,
if you're both on the same page, financially, then it really tends to help things smooth over. And at least you guys have peace of mind about that, and that you're on the same page and you know where the money's going, how it's being spent, what your savings are like, and things like that. And next week, I think is going to be good because we're actually going to more or less jump off of this one into end of the year tax planning, and we're going to have Brian Summerfield come back on that we've had on before, who's an accountant, and he's going to have some end of the year tax planning advice for us. So that'll be pretty exciting.
Yeah, that's gonna be a great session, and looking forward to that. But one last thing I was thinking of that as you're talking, Mike, don't let an agent try to tell you, you know, grab yourself and remind yourself who's got the thing in the family and make a decision rather than actually showing your spouse respect and actually consulting with them first before making that decision. You guys know what I mean, and every guy has probably heard something like that before. It's not about that. You don't need the ego and just doing that. I fully believe in both spouses being on the same page.
Nobody likes
and
a guy with an ego.
Yeah, and doing it based on ego, no, that's not good. Even though, yes, your spouse will be better off for it, but still, come on. You don't need to be beaten up by your agent in that way to make you make a decision. The only decision I might say at that point would be, tell you what, let's get you medically examined so that you're covered while you're thinking about it, and then run it by your spouse, and we'll figure out what you want to do going forward. That's acceptable. That there's no
Yeah, as
reason
long as
that if
you haven't committed to anything, right? The insurance company hasn't even accepted you. You have no idea what your rate's going to be or if you're going to qualify yet. So at least that way you can go home and talk about it with your spouse and say, hey, I applied for this amount, or I did this or that. What are your thoughts? And then, if you decide you don't want it or you want more or less after the conversation, once it's approved, you can, go higher or lower in coverage, or you can just outright say, we decided we don't want to do it, and cancel the app. No harm, no foul.
exactly, and that's part of the reason why there's actually like a 14-day free look period after the policy's been delivered, that you could
Yeah.
turn around and say, you know what, I want to cancel the whole thing. So, if you paid 1 or 2 months premium, you can have that all refunded back to you. No harm, no foul. Everything is taken care of.
And most
So
companies
with that,
offer a 30-day free look period.
yeah, so it just depends. Alonzo
Yeah.
asked, do you take premium in that case for a conditional receipt? Yeah, you've got to take a premium for that. That shows that you're committed to it. If you don't take a premium, at least for 1 or 2 months premium, it doesn't bind the insurance company. So it has to come with the premium. I haven't
Yeah.
seen it without it. So you've got to take some kind of premium. It doesn't have to be the annual premium. It just needs to be 1 or 2 months
Yeah.
to
Or
to
it can
secure that.
sometimes be called a temporary insurance agreement too, where you pay
Right.
that first month's premium. And then the other nice thing about that is that if you do that, and God forbid you walk out of the appointment and get hit by a car, or something happens in between being approved, the insurance company will pay if you would have been approved, even if the policy hadn't been issued yet, because you
Right.
had the conditional receipt or the temporary insurance agreement in place. So there's a lot of positives to that. And of course, if you decide not to get it, that first month's premium would of course be refunded to you. So there's absolutely no harm in doing that. And if you decide to get lesser coverage, of course they would apply any overage to the premiums and everything.
Right. Yeah, they just adjust it or prorate it
Yeah.
or whatever it is that
Yeah.
they're going to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, and in fact, one of the I don't call it a favorite video, but Dr. Sanjay Tolani, one of the top insurance agents in the world, he has a video where he talked about that there's this one family, and they asked him regarding life insurance, and it'd been a while, but he finally met with them. He took the app, but the app wasn't completed yet. And so, the guy went, he'd say, look, I don't have my checkbook with me and I don't have all the information. Can I come back in a couple of weeks so we can finish this up? Sure, no problem. The guy died. No conditional receipt, no temporary insurance agreement. So even to this day, if he gets a call from them, he's on the phone trying to do what he can for them. All because if he would have taken one check, that family would have been so much more better off. And I don't consider those things success stories because the insurance industry is a morbid industry. It's like if a success story means you have to die and everything, say, hey, I did a dude, that sucks. No, I want you to live. In fact, not only do I want you to live, I want the insurance company to live in fear that you do die because they don't want to pay out quickly enough because you got so much coverage. That's the kind of way I want it, want the relationship I want. I don't want anybody to die, but even then, people do die. Death does happen. If it does happen, did I do what I could do to help make sure that we got the coverage in place the best we can?
And
So
that's insurance 101, right? Insurance is the transfer of risk to another party. So that is basic definition of insurance. You learn that in the first day of insurance class. And so, when you pay that small premium, you're transferring that 500,000, that $1 million or 2 million or 10 million or whatever it is of risk to that insurance company. And they have 10, 20, 30 years that they have to carry that risk for. If it's a term policy or
put
your
them
whole
on
life.
the hook.
Yeah.
But life insurance claims they can be contested, but it's rare. And I say that only because the contestability period is 2 years, but after that, all you need is a death certificate.
It really only happens in the first 2 years within the contestability period.
So put them on the hook. We'll help you put them on the hook. I mean, some people say, I hate insurance companies, especially with recent headlines, right? I hate insurance companies. Well, those are the health insurance companies. But hey, you want to make them pay? Get big coverage. How else are you going to make them pay? All right. I think we'll leave this one at that. Everybody, thank you so much for watching and listening. Make it a great day. Tune in for us next week. We will have accountant and advisor Brian Summerfield with us. We're going to talk about year-end tax planning tips, particularly for business owners. We'll be covering that. So catch you next week.
You have been listening to an episode of the Financial Advocacy Podcast. As a reminder, you can't hold us accountable for any actions you take on your own. Just like all financial entertainment shows, we are not providing legal, tax, or securities investment advice of any kind. We do provide general investment information for educational purposes only, and we will discuss alternative financial strategies that do not contain liquid securities. You can see all of our disclosures and disclaimers at our website at www.financialadvocacypodcast.com. Look both ways for across the street. Thank you for listening, and make it a great day.
There you have it. I just went ahead and had to repost this because these are my guys, and I enjoy having them on. So if you guys got some value from it, hit that like, drop a comment, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. Watch the video that I did a few minutes before this came on. With that being said, wipe ass, work in progress every day, and see success. Salute.